learned up until now, we spoke about the ability of the tzitzit to be able to make us remember all the mitzvot. And what's the purpose of remembering all the mitzvot? Because Hashem gave us the 613 mitzvot in order to be able to sanctify our limbs, and which thereby enables us to have a physical, a spiritual body. With every mitzvah we do, we're basically sanctifying and purifying our physical limbs and sinews, which allows us we're actually creating thereby a spiritual body for our souls to exist in the world of souls with a body, and that allows for it to exist in Olam Haba. And we had a problem that we don't have access to all the mitzvot, either because of circumstances or because of being Yisrael, Kohen, and Levi, etc., etc. And Rav Alshech told us that the way Hashem helped us, the way Hashem is going to help us keep all the mitzvot, is by sheer willpower and by commitment. That when a person wakes up in the morning and sees the tzitzit, and the tzitzit reminds him of all the mitzvot, then the person will say, you know what, this is what my life's about. I am about doing the mitzvot, and I'm prepared to do them. Any of the mitzvot, any of the 613 that come my way today, I'm prepared to do all of them. And by that ratzon and that commitment, is as if he's kept them all already just by wanting to and committing to. So we then went into how exactly does the 613 mitzvot get reminded to us by the tzitzit, and we had various different gematrias, and the general idea is that they add up. There's a gematria in tzitzit somehow that adds up to 613, and that will remind us about the number of mitzvot that correspond to the number of limbs and sinews in our bodies that we want to be sanctifying by the mitzvot. So we're up to the beginning piece that starts off with Amar Velota Turut, page Reish Pechet in New One. So he starts as follows. So we're continuing now to a slightly different theme now regarding the second aspect of what tzitzit has the ability to do. It has the ability to remind us of mitzvot. It also has the ability to prevent us from being pulled into the lust of the eyes and the heart. Velotatu. So the question is, what is the power of tzitzit regarding prevention of being pulled into the lusts of the human weakness of falling into lusts of eyes and heart? So he says as follows. So let us suggest the following. Through a person seeing the tzitzit every morning, and thereby remembering the mitzvot. And once he remembers the mitzvot, what is he going to do because of that? Aliyad Kabalatchem, balev lasotam, by being committed, accepting, sincere commitment in his heart to actually carry them out. But often, shavasitem otam, that just by the accepting in the heart, Hashem already considers it. As if you've already done it. Aliyad machshava tova, through what's called a good thought, a good desire. And we know that the rabbis tell us a good desire, Hashem reckons it as if it was carried out. So therefore, a person has the power of tzitzit, which has given his body a spiritual power. It has taken away the coarseness of the physical, animalistic desires of the body, just by waking in the morning, looking at the tzitzit, and accepting that my body today is going to be used for Hashem's will, and is not going to be used against Hashem's will. I'm going to use my sinews to pull back on doing Avera, and use my limbs to carry out mitzvot. That has already purified on a certain level his body, and now he's got a holy body. Not only will the body become holy, it will actually also sanctify the eyes that led him to making this decision, because he saw the tzitzit. And also in the heart has a cher kol mitzvot, The heart that was reminded, and the heart was actually, that had the commitment and decision and desire built up in the heart. So we're saying that besides the fact that it's as if we did all the mitzvot, specifically the eyes and heart, which are involved in seeing, remembering, and committing, that is what specifically the eyes and heart are going to have superpowers against Avirot. Ad geder shelo yishlot, until they'll be so strong that there will be no power. Koach hatuma, of the impure forces, le'ena v'liba, against the eyes and heart, which are known as sarsure, the avera, the promoters and middlemen and promoters of avera, which the Gemara explains that the eyes and the heart is the main heart of a person. Right? Really a person is, all a person is their eyes and heart, in a way. That we're a body that has many functions. We have a stomach and hands and feet, but mainly all of this is just keeping alive our eyes and heart. Now we see what our, like, we can see, like, I think I was watching this class from Jordan Peterson. He was talking about how we see so much information with our eyes, so we're not able to actually see everything we're seeing. Rather, in our hearts, we have an order of value process, and we have already decided what we want to see, and that's what we actually see. The rest we don't even see. So there's the heart is deciding what the eyes should see. The eyes now gather information and then bring it back into the heart, and that's how this whole process of a human being walking around the world is really just an eye and a heart, and the body's all around to support it and carry out what the eyes and hearts are deciding based on what they're seeing and deciding. So this is really what Moshe is telling us, that, and this is why the Yetzer Hara uses the eyes and the hearts, and that's where he's at. That's where he's using our main functions of interaction with the world, and he's hijacking them for us to use that and be interested and to pursue things that he wants us to do. And there's a pasuk in Mishlei which he brings here in the bottom from the Yerushalmi, that Tana b'ni libcha li, Hashem says to every Jew, my son, give me your heart. Ve'einecha darkei tetzurena, and then your eyes will follow in my path. All Hashem is asking for me, give me your heart and eyes. And then I know, says the Gemara says, if you give me your heart and eyes, I know that you're mine. That's what Hashem asks for. Give me your heart and eyes, and the rest is history, as they say. V'zeu v'lo taturu. So through the power of the eyes and the heart, being holy, being used right at the beginning of the day for seeing and desiring and committing to holiness, that will give us power to resist the rest of the day. Odi tachem. Now we're going to continue this theme, and we're going to explain the question we had earlier on. Why does it mention the heart first and then the eyes? Even though, like the rabbis explained, usually the heart is what gets excited by what the eyes see. So we already kind of answered this question before by saying that the heart is committing in the morning to Torah, and that's what helps your eyes and heart later on. Here he's going to take a different theme. The Gemara brings a story. The Gemara brings a story of a man who was very particular by the mitzvah of tzitzit. But he wasn't necessarily a very pious Jew in other areas. So he'd heard about a harlot in a around faraway country, overseas, and she took 400 gold coins as a fee. So he sent her the money in advance. Apparently she demanded money in advance to create an appointment. And he made an appointment. What happened was he made the journey all the way to that place, and he said he arrived. Her butler, her servant, her maidservant opened the door for him, and she invited him in. She went to tell her boss that your client that sent you 400 gold coins from Israel is here. So she said, "Oh, come inside." She made him 7 beds. 6 of the beds was silver, 1 of them was gold, and these were like bunk beds, like a whole mission to get up to the top bed. And there was ladders between each of the beds. As he was going up the ladders, all 4 of his tzitzit strings somehow hit him in the face, and he was like, "Oh, I don't want to do this." And he remembered that what he really is all about. He went down the ladder and sat on the floor. So she was shocked; she'd never seen this happen before. So she came down the ladder, sat down next to him, and she said, "I swear, in the name of the Roman pagan gods, you have to tell me what you saw wrong in me. What blemish did you see in my body that you?" Like, she's like, nobody ever rejects me like that. He said, "No, it's not about this at all. We have a mitzvah. It's called tzitzit." And Hashem says, "Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I'm your God." And he says again, "Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I'm your God," to tell me that he's going to give punishment to those who don't accept him as a God, and I think a reward to those who do accept him. So that's the Gemara in Menachot. So now Rav Alshech is going to dissect this Gemara a little bit and see how this is really what the Gemara is telling us about the mitzvah of tzitzit. So he brings the story in very short. Shesipru Masa Shahayal was a story, etc. The Tabchula Hatzitziyat al Panav, and the tzitzit hit him in the face, etc. So that's the synopsis of the story that he tells us. And obviously he's expecting us to look it up, or we know it already. So now he's saying as follows: This seems extremely strange to anyone reading this Gemara. Because he had this particular tendency to be strict about the mitzvah of tzitzit, just because he's wearing tzitzit, but right now he's not in the process of mitzvah. He's now in the country furthest away he can be from any other Jewish person. He's hidden. Nobody knows where he is. But the fact that she made him all of these special beds, there's the gold beds and the silver beds, were supposed to give him a feeling of specialness, of importance, and that's supposed to pull him in even more. So the question is, Rav Moshe is asking, how in that situation where seemingly there's no reason for him to resist, how suddenly does the tzitzit actually manage to be enough for him to hold back?
What about the whole tzitzis? How is it going to work? You look at the rakia, you look at the water, and the water reminds you of the whole sequence.
Right.
That sounds like, why would that actually work in practically?
So that's what he's asking. He's not specifically talking about the blue,
but the same idea is like, how is it this man is going to La Vera? How is it they were the whole basis, the whole basis seems like very much. You're going to look at the water remind you of, how does it go? Like, you look at the water reminds you of the Kia reminds you of the Kisei HaKavod. That's very extended. So it's the same question, even more so, I think, the whole thing.
Yeah, so again, these questions are very strong questions because, I mean, you can ask the question in terms of like, as we know ourselves as a body, as a physical being with limited power to resist, strong temptation. And that question is always going to be there. I mean, where does anyone ever get power to resist temptation? So there's got to be a certain place where there's a certain level of awareness that we're given,
right?
That is somehow able to like shake us back into reality, and we set our drive.
So that's the answer.
So we're going to see exactly specifically. I mean, I think any answer a safer is going to give you is still going to leave the question unanswered in a way. Because how can any string or even any type of awareness, like even someone opens a Sefer Torah in front of you, someone might say, I don't care, my heart is desiring this temptation. So, there's a certain thing where you could say, a certain level of awareness that should or could and will, Bezrat Hashem, help us overcome.
What does Hamidrash mean?
Hamidrash means to megareh, how do you say that? I always forget these.
To throw off?
To really try and pull them in.
Like megareh is like when you park on an illegal though. Megareh, the same word?
No, it's with a hey.
Pull them in.
When you're trying to pull them in, when you're trying to fish them in, type thing. Specifically, it means to send the dog after someone. Chassé.
The hound.
Right, basically, yeah, that's the word. Ach omnam, en safek, ki lo lechol adam yikreko. You're right, not every person wearing tzitzit, the tzitzit will have the power to help him resist such a level of temptation. Ki im lazahir b'mitzvah tzitzit. It's only one who is particularly strict and careful about the mitzvah tzitzit. So he's invested. This was his one thing. Tzitzit was his thing. And that's what the Mara mentions that right at the beginning of the story, because that is what helped him eventually, because it came kind of to pay him back for what he needed it. So what does it mean being careful in tzitzit? The Rav Alshech told us in the beginning of the piece. V'hu kol hazu is a hirut hanimtza katuv hasefer, which means shehu lahatzitz v'nizkor b'chol yom tamid kol mitzvot Hashem. So this person, what does it mean he was particular about tzitzit? It means that when he put tzitzit on in the morning, he used it as a meditation promoter or as a reminder to get into the mindset of what it means to be a Jew and to sanctify his body and remember the mitzvot. Shehizchira lekabalah sotam. Ki az ma'aleh alav hakatuv ki'ilu al yad avar tzitziyot became called him tamid kol mitzvot Hashem. So obviously when he's particular about tzitzit, it means that he did it properly and he did it with that level of awareness. So it seems what he's saying is that he wasn't a lowlife. By doing tzitzit, he had a certain built-in connection to Hashem's mitzvot, and that kind of, built inside of him a level of resistance and level of inner strength by doing it every day and by constantly being reminded of it. ומה גם כי בהיות הציצית בארבע כנפות מסובב בארבע מקצועותיו בהם. So the fact that a person is surrounded by the mitzvot from all four sides. Sorry, because there's the corners, the four corners. Echshav shehu, why does Hashem want people to have tzitzit in the four corners? Ki ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu zakot et kol ish Yisrael. Hashem wanted to give us the opportunity and the zchut to have the fact that we have tzitzit. Saviv arba shmotav hagdolim. That we should have Hashem's four times Hashem's name around us. V'hu, how do we get to Hashem's name? Kol tzitzit yesh bo shmoneh chutim. Every tzitzit has 8 strings, v'chamisha ksharim, and 5 knots, v'shlosh asher chudiot, and 13 sections of 3 rings. Altogether comes up to 26. Shahu, amispar mufchar kamdubar, and 26 is Hashem's name. Harei esrim v'shesh, kamispar Hashem ha'havaya yizbar. V'ofen ki ish asher kol eila lo b'kavanato yom yom esrim v'shesh. When a person is thinking about Hashem's name and it's all around him every day, it's as if he did all of the 26 names, mitzvot, the Hashem Havayah's mitzvot every day.
Which 26 mitzvot are you doing?
26 is referring to Hashem's name, so the mitzvot of Hashem. So there's a reminder also in the Hashem's name being gematriad in the tzitzit, to remind us of the commander of the mitzvot. In Kain Hamalachim Hanasim B'chol Yom Tariag. So mitzvot create angels. So now, where a person wearing tzitzit, it's as if he did all the mitzvot. So now there's 613 angels by wearing tzitzit. U'ba'achdut echad al yad arba tzitziyotav yaspiku laharik ulashpia bo kedusha. So because we have all 4 corners coming together with Hashem's name and all the angels of the mitzvah, so now this person is surrounded with intense levels of kedusha of Hashem's name and angels. Ad gedesh otah kedusha haba'alo b'tzitziyotav torurenu. So now he actually has spiritual forces around him.
So you've got 4 times Hashem's name.
4 times Hashem's name, yeah, and 613 mitzvot, which create 613 positive angels. So this is basically, again, obviously things that we don't see, but they're things that can help us in times of need to snap into Hashem's reality. If we have all of that energy around us, it will awaken us. Ad yira elef, so much so that he could actually envision it for himself. Ki'ilu arba tzitziot omdim lefanav limnoa masot ra, as if these 4 tzitziot are like 4 guards preventing him from actually carrying out any sin. And as the lashon of the Gemara was, it's as if he's got 4 witnesses watching what he's doing. Ki koach ha-mitzvah ruchanim hema, udvekim bo. So every mitzvah gives off spiritual energy, and they actually surround the persons and stay with them. Or mitzad ma gam mitzitzotav, and they actually also get attached to the strings of the tzitzit. So basically, that's what he's saying, that we have. It's not necessarily the strings themselves; it's the inner work that's happening with the strings. So it's happening to the person that's wearing the tzitzit with the right intention and desire that it awakened, and the fact that all the spiritual connection that happens around him and in the strings themselves. So it's connected to the strings, but like Rav Alshech was saying, it's not like a magical wand of tzitzit just like getting you out of stuff. It's inner work, and it's awareness.
So every time you wear a talet, you're wearing the 613 angels,
Right.
plus Hashem's name 4 times.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as Rav Alshech tells us, it's not just wearing the talit; it's doing the inner work that the talit helps us do. So what now Rav Alshech is going to go into how amazing this guy's ability to resist was. He was already at the last stage of just before sinning. He'd already made the journey. Nobody else was there with him that he should be embarrassed of anyone finding out. He actually saw her for. So he travelled the world and the 7 seas to go see her, just based on the description that other people told him, or the rumours that he heard. And right now he's actually seen her with his flesh. And obviously seeing is more powerful than hearing. So he's now seemingly at the point of no return. But still, vayatzar koach lifrosh, he managed to gather the strength to resist. V'hu davar gadol. This is an amazing feat. Asher Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai diber Hamidrash. When Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was on his deathbed, his student said, "Give us a blessing before you depart." And he said, "May it be the will of Hashem that the fear of heaven should be upon you as much as you fear other human beings."
The Melech, blessed with
Kamoira Basavadam, any other person, your peers.
I thought
And they told him, his teachers, his students asked him, "That's it? That's how much you're blessing us? Maybe you should bless us, we should have Yerut Shamayim, like a big tzaddik, it sounds to be very low level." He said, "Yes. Ve'levai. It should be, this is also a level to be on. You should know, because when a person sins in private, his main concern is, I wish, the worst thing would be if someone would walk in at the time. So, you see that the person's actually more afraid of other people seeing him sin than even Hashem. So what do we see here? We see that people aren't so afraid of sinning when Hashem's watching. People are more afraid when other people are watching. So Rav Alshech says, this guy that travelled to Honolulu and he's got nobody there, so he's literally got nothing to prevent him from sinning. We see that the fear of heaven is not so strong. And here we see this person actually ended up not sinning because of just purely fear of heaven. So, now you can point out even more so what the chiddush of this person that he was able to resist through the power of tzitzit. He says as follows: if the entire desire started with seeing, like he was having a merry day, and suddenly he comes across a lustful image, and that's what suddenly pulled him into it. Now his heart got a desire as well and being pulled into it. So now once that image is gone, once the sight isn't there anymore, then the entire, what got it going was just the picture or the sight, and that sight's gone, that's it. But what if the desire was built up before he even saw her? In this case, he started the desire just by hearing, or by building up the desire in his heart by his imagination, and that's what got him to travel and pay all that money even before he saw anything. So now this would be way harder to remove the Yetzer Hara, because there's no way to just say, it's over, because it began before you saw it, so you can't just look away and it's gone, because the desire started before seeing. So this is what he's going to say now, how great the desire was here, and still Mitzvah Tzitzit was able to overcome it. If it starts off with the seeing and then the heart, once the sight is now removed from the person's eyes, it would be easy to now move on and forget about it. That wouldn't be such a big chiddush. What began the entire thing was just the eyes. Once the eye doesn't see what it saw to begin with, easy to continue moving on. What the heart desires without even seeing anything, as happened in the story, just by hearing rumors is what got him all excited. Now he even got past just hearing the news. He actually saw her. Now it caused the heart to desire on a very powerful level. He would see something so powerfully irresistible to the heart and eyes. This is unbelievably powerfully appelled. Like it's unbelievable that he had the power. The sleeper Rabbeinu. Why did the rabbi tell us this story? The power of one who is particular about tzitzit is able to even overcome such a situation. Even though it began with the heart desire, then his eyes went to see it, which now intensifies the imagination, the rumors, because he actually came and saw it. And he still can resist. That is unbelievably something crazy. It's a pella. Pella atzum. This will explain to us the flow of the psukim. The following psukim are going to describe the power of tzitzit. When you create the tzitzit with the intention to meditate upon looking at it and remembering and accept the mitzvot, that you'll accept the mitzvot when you see it and you remember them. That you'll accept it and that will be considered as if you did it. Through seeing and remembering. This will now look, listen to me and appreciate how this is able to prevent and remove sin. It would be that even if the eye, if you would just say that in a situation where one saw a lustful image and then the heart got desirable, that would be one thing. If you just look away and move away, you can move on. The pasuk is telling me no, even if it's achrei levavchem v'achrei einechem. The order was first you built up the desire in the heart before seeing, and then in the eyes. Still, the tzitzit will have the power to overcome that. Your eyes will see this beautiful sight. As in that story, that will be enough to prevent you. Even though your eyes have now seen what your heart imagined. In tzitzit will be enough for you to not go after those powerful forces. Tayar is a spy. This is like the same word at the beginning of the parasha, the Yaturu.
Oh, yeah.
So the same way, Yulaturu he's saying means you won't need to try and spy and look for ways to overcome the Yitzhahara. It will be easy for you. Even if you're not trying your hardest to overcome the Yitzhahara, meaning in your like this story with this guy, he wasn't planning for 1 second to stop. He didn't get like it's like he was trying to resist. He wasn't trying to resist. But the mitzvah tzitzit came and took away any need to work hard to stop. He just like, oh no, not happening. He just went down, and it wasn't even a thing anymore for him. He'll just run away and completely turn away from the whole thing. Even though, naturally speaking, without the power of tzitzit, it's inevitable to end up with sin. That's why the pasuk says, one of the questions, why does it say that you will lust after? We're talking about why are you assuming that it's inevitable that a Jew will be lusting after negative things? But he's saying, even in a situation like this, where the desire is so strong that it makes no sense that he'll be able to resist, and this is basically all odds are stacked against him, still is able to try. The being looking at the tzitzit and accepting the mitzvot every day, that will suffice. So let's finish on the last piece. That's the last pasuk, last two pasukim of the parasha of tzitzit. So now the Torah has told us how powerful the ability to remember tzitzit, remember the mitzvot through the tzitzit is. Now he's telling us, he also told us, now he's going to tell us what else we can get besides preventing sin. Remember before we had a question, why does it say, why does the pasuk finish off again to remember the mitzvot? So here he's going to explain that. But ladei mitzvah zu, without the mitzvah of tzitzit, mi ha'ish yaseh kol mitzvot. It's impossible for someone to do all 613 mitzvot, and thereby it would be impossible. The kaddish b'm kol ha'mirav, it would be impossible for one to sanctify all of his limbs, ashehem k'misparam, which are 613 in number. Achad yad zechirat kol mitzvot v'kabel lasotam. עליה עליכם כאילו עשיתם אותם באופן כביתם קדושים כל עבריכם. So till now we didn't speak about the holiness. The Holy Alshech already mentioned it at the beginning. But the parasha, the pasuk says, do tzitzit to remember the mitzvot and accept them. Do tzitzit to be able to have powers against sin. Now it's telling me another level, which is really the reason behind all of what we've seen before, is that tzitzit are going to make us be holy, and it's going to sanctify our limbs, and what's going to happen is that our limbs are going to be more adept to doing Hashem's will by losing the coarse inclination to be used in an animalistic physical sense. So now you're going to be holy to you, God, to Hashem. Allahu ke'inyan tzedek lavashti v'yalbishem. This is the pasuk in Eov. So he says as follows: K'moshe Amru Chazal, the Midrash says as follows: Yeshu na'eh levusho, ve'en levusho na'eh lo. There is a situation where a person is worthy of a respectful garment, but he doesn't have the respectful garment. He has a cheap garment. Ve'yesh levusho na'eh lo, ve'en nahu levusho. There's one who has a respectful garment, but he himself doesn't have. He's not respectable, so his garment doesn't really help him. The yesh na'el vusha il vusha na'ela. There is one who is a respectable person and has respectable clothes to match. Kach amar Eov, ani na'el tzedek v'atzedek na'eli v'zehu tzedek lavashta v'yalbashem. So what he's saying is that Eov, he was very connected to justness, to tzedek, so much so that tzedek and him were like a respectable person with respectable clothes that was a well-suited match. But derech zeh Amura Ratelu, the same idea we see with Mizmor LeDavid, or Pasuk Mizmor LeDavid, Pasuk Achar Omer David Mizmor. So which way does it work? So the Midrash says it's both ways. Mizmor LeDavid and David Mizmor. The Mizmor is a beautiful thing, and David is a beautiful thing. And together, David and Mizmor go together like a glove, basically, like a beautiful glove, like a tailored suit. So Tzedek is a tailored suit to Eov, and Mizmor is a tailored suit to David. So that is the idea of the concept of two things working together both ways.
The Zemer of David, when he gets punished, he thinks of Torah as a Zemer, and it's not good for him.
Right, so that's talking about Zmirat Eilukach, when he's talking about the Torah being Zayar. Here we're talking about generally his approach to life with song. So now we're talking about the relationship between the Jewish people and Hashem. So he says as follows: when a person is not acting in a way of holiness, you aren't worthy. You're not worthy of having Hashem as your God, because you're not living up to it. So that would be a situation of a person who's wearing a nice suit, but he's not worthy of the suit that he's wearing. V'lachen v'yitem kadoshim. So you should sanctify yourself, make yourself worthy of having Hashem as your God. K'dei shetihu l'Elohechem, that you should be appropriate to Him, to be His people. Ki ani kvar na'elechem be'etzem. Ki ani Hashem Elokechem. Hashem is saying, I'm already a beautiful suit. You have to now work your way up for you to be suitable to be my people.
Is that a pun intended?
About
Suitable.
right? That's where it comes from. So Hashem's explaining that Hashem said, really, I went a step ahead of you guys. I wasn't waiting for you to be suitable for me. I took you out of Mitzrayim before you were holy. Even though, right, Hashem basically trusted that we're going to fit into the suit one day. So He created the suit. He created the possibility of us living up to being suitable to be His people. So He says, I didn't wait to be your God, even though I should have waited, because the suitable nation of the Infinite One is holy. But I didn't wait for that level. As the second you guys moved away from Tumah, I already accepted you as my nation. So I'm assuming that was the time of the 49 days of the Omer, which we consider the 7 weeks of cleansing.
I think it's really the two mitzvot Dam Pesach and Korban Pesach.
That was already moved away from Tumah.
Yeah.
Probably because I guess that's where He took us out, yeah.
That's the proof that we moved away from Tumah. That we were prepared to sacrifice the...
Right. Yeah, I guess in a way, like the 7 clean days, yeah, it has to be the end of the Tumah.
Exactly.
And then you can count.
Exactly. 7 weeks is 7 clean days.
Right, so you have to wait for the Tumah to
Rashi
end.
says that as well.
Right, very nice. Exactly. So I took you out even before getting to the level of Kedusha. As long as you don't have Tumah, I was happy already. Ani Hashem, I am very holy. I am very removed from physical base behaviors and impulses. But still, I already had said to Yatchem, I took you out, but because I saw that you're going to be in the future. Even though I am already your God, but you aren't my people. So what he's saying is, the pasuk starts off, Ani Hashem Elokechem. So the pasuk, you should be holy to God because God is already your God, and He's waiting for you to live up to that standard. But you should know, I took you out of Mitzrayim, knowing that you weren't yet. Liyot lachem, in the future, you were going to be worthy of being my nation.
Very nice.
Even though Ani Hashem Elokechem, I'm already there, but I knew you were going to make it in the end. Right now, you're only not tameh. I've already done my part. Now it's time for you to do your part. So that's the end of this week's parasha with the mitzvah tzitzit. And this is a beautiful thing that we have every day. We say it every day, we wear it, and we should do Halacha to help us.
Okay, so when Mashiach comes, we will still be wearing tzitzis?
It actually says that all the goyim will hold on to the tzitzit, right? Hundreds of thousands of goyim for every string.
I have another question. This is speculation that tzitzis is the things off around. It's really a man. It's very interesting because the Torah says that we must keep the Rabbanan, but ultimately the Rabbanan who tell us, man tells us, don't read other people's books. So it's one imperfect man speaking against censoring another far, far, far more imperfect man. But what my speculation is that the two incidences were b'diavad also, meaning the covering of the Noach by Shem, which is only us, and Sodom. Ideally, Avraham Avinu wasn't ready for it. Ideally, he would have taken the money from the king of Sodom, and then Sodom might have identified. He wasn't. Avraham Avinu couldn't do that much. So b'diavad.
You're talking about these two stories in connection to tzitzit?
Yeah, when ideally he would take the money he would accept the money and it would be a kiruv for the king of Sodom, and ideally that by Shem ben Noach, there's a b'diavad going on because he doesn't like Avram Avinu, so he would have. Then I'm not sure, it's a little more to work
Yeah,
out, but the
because these-
b'diaveds,
you know those
since this
things-
is b'diavad, because after Tzlavchad, which didn't take Shabbos seriously, so now they need, so the whole thing is b'diavad. Since this is only a b'diavad, it's like a fat
let's
Torah type
continue
thing.
this afterwards. I wanna.
Okay.
Can I just ask you a favor? There's a piece, short piece in this week's parasha that we are struggling to understand.
Okay.
Would you be open to giving your translation of it so we can understand it?
Right now.
Or after you finish your June, whichever you.
Yeah, probably take me a couple minutes to read it, but.
Yeah. Can I just show it to you and then you can? This is. It's after all these questions, and then it's just this up to about there. It's really hard to understand what he's talking about. I'll just be back in a second.
It's interesting because both the examples you mentioned, I don't know if you were referring to them, but it says that mitzvah tzitzit was given b'schut that Shem covered Noach, so mitkasa v'talit, and the chut at shrochna,
The beggar is Shem, as a schut from Shem ben Noach.
right, so Shem got mitzvah tzitzit because he covered Noach, right?
Right.
And it says also Avram got mitzvah tzitzit because he didn't take a thread michut at shrochna from Sodom.
Right, and that's
So
b'diavad.
you're referring to those two things, right?
Right. But Yosef Atzadik ideally would have had the relations with Potiphar if he was able to, and the Yifat Torah is a b'diavad. So this is a b'diavad.
No, we'll have to get into
The whole
it
thing.
later on. I just want to see what's going on here.
Yeah.
You can also leave if you want. I don't know if I feel like
How long
might
is
be-
it, Shir? Oh, I go. What time is
You
it?
can always, whenever you want, just get up.
I
and leave
gotta
if
get
you
my
want.
phone.
If you want.
What time? How long is it? The Shir?
Next year is half an hour.
Half hour on what?
Sure.
I'm interested in the parsha. What you're not doing that now. Are you
Oh, I'm just going to read it. Do you want to read it out
yes,
loud?
yes.
כי אם שהידיע אמס הבחירה חפשית. אוקיי? טוב לבקש ולכן הכנות לעשות הבחירה מהרע לטוב. נבוא לביור בסוד לשמיא.
This is what.
זאת אומרת, בחירה ידיע.
This is what Shlomo's telling you about?
Yeah. מאמרם ז"ל, אלדד ומידד, מסלחים ומלאכים,
Oh, this is the Yeshua.
Yes, we're talking about the Nevuah of Eldad and Medad. Mamar Sheni, who Mamaram.
Oh, that's what the Nebuah.
Another Mamar Chazal. Shalom Anahu Yitbarach Moshe Min Amud Ba'aretz Elo Shluch Dor Deyam Etim Bamidbar.
Oh my God. Shkai, thank you very much on the shir.
Yeah, thank you
It
for doing it.
doesn't apply to me because I'm not a mensch. Can't be a mensch. For most people.
Well, it's this.
Nah, it's a game. It's a game.
Well, you can use it. You
I'm
can
not
use
getting
the
mensch
power.
is out. It's a Tim Shinish. Mensch like.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't going to ask, but I appreciate it.
My
Thank you
question
very
you'll
much.
see from here is that it says, God says to Moshe, Shelach lecha, send for your benefit this prize. Because if you don't send it, you won't be buried in Israel.
Right.
That I just cannot understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you can decipher it, then
You say what you're saying. If he wouldn't have sent,
you'll see at the end. He says that I think it's on the next page. Where's the questions? Here's all the questions. Yeah. He gives two mashals,
right?
and it's this. I think this section here. This section.
He was not there. No,
He wasn't there.
He's not there.
But the Alshech is suggesting that send the spies because for your benefit, because otherwise you won't be buried in Eretz Israel.
That's what.
He wasn't buried there, and he did send the spies. That's why it's
So
not.
that's a steerer? You're
Yeah.
saying that's a steerer?
Yes.
It's not this guy. But he's looked, he can see it's Israel. It was Al close to him. They're farther away. So that's split. They did get the system. Be able to look down.
look down, yeah, but not to be
No,
guided.
he's not saying that. No, again, the spies will cause him not to go into decay.
That's why I want you to read it properly,
He's
because
saying
when we
Anashim.
translated it, it didn't fit well.
He's saying, Shlach Lecha, I'm going to suggest something for your benefit, to send kosher Jews, to send tzaddikim.
Yeah, and
And then they will come back with a good report, and therefore you'll go into Israel.
no, but is that what it says?
Yeah. He says,
What's the Hebrew?
Kalama, l'bilti tish'ar midbar, for your benefit, so you don't remain in the desert. Ani mitzavecha, I'm telling you, she'asher tishlach, those are the ones that you're sending, she'yu tzaddikim. Make sure to send tzaddikim, not
Why?
Hashem.
Why?
Because then they'll come back with a good
But
report.
what's it say in Hebrew? At the end of that?
It says, "V'zeh shama nashim tzaddikim, yeah?
Yeah.
והוא במה שכתבנו שהבחירה חופשית, ויהיה עזר כנגד היותם צדיקים. Because there's free choice, and the fact that the tzaddikim will help along them to make the right choice.
Yeah, but
Tzaddikim
at
will-
the very beginning, it says it's going to be bad for you and it's going to be bad for Israel.
Right, because it says that Hashem knew that they're going to sin.
Yeah.
So he's saying that by sending tzaddikim, because there's a concept that free choice is always available. There's no such thing that Hashem knows for sure.
I understand that, but then how do you reconcile that with the first part, right at the beginning, on page Resh Vav, Shalach Nashim, Hine al Hashem Meshicho Yifulu.
Yeah, it's very hard to understand what both Hashem and his anointed one, i.e. Moshe, why did Hashem tell him to do it, and why did Moshe agree?
Right. That's how he starts it. He
Right.
starts it. There's no. It's bad for everybody, so don't send them.
Right.
The whole point is that the Alshech is saying is that why didn't Moshe and why didn't Hashem stop him from sending spies? And then you've got this section here. It says, send the spies because it's for your benefit. How on earth is it for your benefit?
So he's building up an idea, but he's already starting off saying that even though everybody knew this was going to end bad, it doesn't mean that it was inevitable for that way. I mean, he's going into the whole discussion of like what it means for Hashem to know things in the future, but it's basically saying that it wasn't completely inevitable for it to end up bad.
No, but in what way is Shalach Lacha for your benefit? He says earlier on. It says for your benefit. Shalach Lacha means for your benefit, for your joy.
Right.
In what way is sending spies for your benefit?
The kosher aspect of it is the benefit.
In what way?
Is the benefit? Meaning he didn't yet explain why sending at all is beneficial. We'll get to that later on. But he's saying what's beneficial is that when you decide to send, for whatever reason you decide to send, do make sure.
Okay, that I can understand because there's no such thing as predetermination, and it could be that they choose right.
And
But
again,
he
so
does
that
specifically
has to be
say.
tzaddikim, because otherwise, if you already have an inclination towards doing bad.
Yeah, but the thing is that Moshe, the whole.
I think he would die. Moshe Rabbeinu would die 40 years earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's
that's-
true.
so
But the whole
sense is
case
right.
here, is Moshe saying to Hashem, I had no choice. They were pressurizing me. They want to go and send spies. So what are you telling me to do? If you tell me to send the spies, I'll send the spies. If you tell me not to, I won't. And what does Hashem say? Shelach lecha, send for your benefit. And the problem I'm having is, in what way is sending the spies going to be for Moshe's benefit?
Because he would
Other than
die.
what you said, which is he lasts another 40 years.
Well, at that time, he would have probably gone to Eretz Israel. He didn't send. I mean, the whole reason he stayed out of Eretz Israel was also because he sent them. And part of it, obviously, you know.
It is very problematic to understand the Pasuk for your benefit.
Yeah.
There's no
I think
benefit
he hasn't
in
yet
there.
come to the main reason he sent them. It sounds like he's already starting a way of looking at it.
But you see, that's why I wanted to ask you to explain the mashal, because there's a mashal in there of a guy losing 100 zuz or something.
Right. He says
Did
he-
you understand
he
that?
purposefully lost more money.
He
to be able
purposely wanted to
them
find the
smaller.
rest. So who's that? Are you saying that the Moshe that the Bnei Israel is the 100 zuz and Moshe is the golden coin?
Right. Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically sacrificing Moshe for the purpose of the Jewish people.
Yeah. Yeah, Moshe being buried in outside of Israel was beneficial to others, not to himself.
Right.
He helped them.
And so that's coming back to the same problem. How is Shelach Lecha for your benefit? Rashi, Alshech says, this is the only place, Lecha, it says, that Rashi says for your benefit. He doesn't say about Lech Lecha for your benefit.
No, here he says, I think Rashi says otherwise. Rashi doesn't say it's for your benefit. Rashi says that you can choose. It's up to your decision, your discretion.
Isn't the shlach
In Lech Lecha does say for your benefit.
No, I think even here, doesn't he say here?
Rashi is Rashi is correct.
Can you just double check that? Because I understood that.
I thought the benefit is Klal Yisrael. If you want to, for your benefit, you can say
you've got
it's
that.
Klal Yisrael. Why is it always Moshe? Why is it always Moshe?
Lecha means for you specifically. It doesn't say Lechem.
Okay,
So if you say
Shlach
that,
Lecha. Why did that's not very good about it. Lecha, most Jerushim say
Rashi
it's the
says
benefit of the Klal Yisrael.
Ledatcha,
your discretion.
not for your benefit.
Where does he get the idea of it being for your benefit? Probably bring Lech Lecha as an example. So he's going a different direction.
Because where does he says somewhere, I can't remember where, that
Yeah, he brings it in page Reshut Gimel. He brings Rashi
Pei.
Datcha,
pay what?
Reshut Gimel.
It's one Klal Yisrael.
And he says that Rashi says in his discretion, his understanding, he just doesn't like that. He doesn't like that. We don't find anything else that means that. Therefore, he wants to disagree with
He
Rashi.
disagrees with it.
Yeah.
I
And
thought that
he brings Rabbeinu Bechai in at the bottom. That does
the
that.
basic, most people, most Jewish man says, I don't want you to send the Klal Yisrael. It's like somebody selling a car. Says, if you want, I'm not going to stop
You
it.
can test that.
Lecha, Shlach Lecha is one singular,
Well, he
one nation.
You wanted it to be confidence, so it shouldn't be like trying to hide it. Right?
Right, so Lecha could be one nation.
Right,
Or-
same
or
could be.
just,
Yeah, I haven't seen the whole piece, but I think he's focusing in on the sending is obviously not the beneficial part of the solution, but I don't know how he's gonna. Travis, hi. Okay, so we're gonna do share.
Okay, you ready? Tell me when
Yeah.
you're ready.
Okay, good morning everyone. We're going to continue our theme we started last time, explaining the pasuk, beautiful pasuk which talks about the fact that the Jewish people exclaim to the world that I may be black, I may be undesirable, but I'm still beautiful. And we saw a couple of explanations about that, and we're going to now continue progressing into the depth of this idea. How can the beauty be present at the same time as the blackness, as the solidness? So the Midrash Rabbah, goes through all the generations of the Jewish people, and as we know, there's no shortage of sin when it came to the Jewish people as a whole, and especially as we know in the Sefer of the Parashas of Bamidbar, as we're learning now, every week we have a different saga with the Jewish people not living up to the standards that were expected of them. And specifically in this week's parasha we have the Meraglim, which is actually brought down as one of the examples. But let's go see the Midrash for a minute. The Midrash says as follows: Shchora ani, I am sullied and darkened with sin in Mitzrayim. Shane'emar vayam rubi. This is actually a pasuk in Yechezkel, where Yechezkel describes what isn't mentioned in the Torah, that originally when Aaron HaKohen came to the Jewish people and told them that they should get ready to leave Egypt, they weren't interested. They wanted to stay, and they didn't believe. And only later on, when Moshe came, did they gather faith. The Nave Ani Mitzrayim, when in Mitzrayim did they act with beauty and with connection to Hashem? The Dam Pesach or the Dam Mina. That was the actions of mitzvah that they did to leave the darkness of Egypt. So that's one example, says the Midrash, of one era, the Jewish people being one day they were darkened with sin and stuck in Mitzrayim, but they were able to get out of it a minute later, or a few days later, or a few months later, and leave Mitzrayim through these two mitzvot. The next example he brings is straight away at the Yam Suf. They were Shechora Yam Suf. When were they darkened in the Yam Suf? It says Vayamru al Yam. While they went through the Yam Suf, the Jewish people were complaining. It says that they felt like they were scared the Egyptians are going to come after them. There's another Targum actually in here in Shir Shirim which says that the Jews complained that the floor was muddy. Like they're being saved from the Egyptians, and they said, look at this muddy floor. Why can't Hashem make us have nice tiled walkway through the sea? And that's when Hashem, it says in the Targum that Hashem got really angry and Moshe had to pray to save the Jews. So that even at the Yam Suf, there was misdemeanor. And then the Nave'ani, when did they act beautiful? Straight away after that, they sang the Shirat Hayam, Ze'eli va'anvehu, actually the same words as Naveh. They spoke about beautifying Hashem. Shchora ani b'mara, they complained in Mara. The Nave'ani b'mara, when did they become beautiful? Hashem showed Moshe the piece of bitter wood to throw into the water. So there, it's even more interesting because there the Jews didn't ever become beautiful. Moshe, it was in the schut of Moshe that he was able to. It's another version of being darkened with sin, but still beautiful, not through the Jewish people changing their attitude, but even just through one individual, Moshe Rabbeinu. The same example is in Refidim. It says that the Jewish people complained, and Moshe built a mizbeach. Har Sinai, it says they did the egel that's blackened with sin. V'nave'ani, says the Midrash, the Chorev, because beforehand they said Nasev and Ishma. This is a very interesting one because they did Nasev and Ishma. That's what makes the egel be a sin because they said Nasev and Ishma 40 days beforehand. That's what makes the egel be even more so a blackening thing, right? But again, this is indicating a certain theme, which we're going to go into a little bit more soon. We're going to go through all these cases, and the Midrash is really revealing to us by giving us all these examples and seeing which things, how the black and beautiful works together. What really the pasuk is telling us here. So here we have an example of Nasev and Nishma beforehand, causing it to be blackened at the egel, but beautiful because I said Nasev and Nishma, and we're looking at that as an actual good thing that we see Nasev and Nishma beforehand, which makes them beautiful as they're sitting in the egel. Another example says the Midrash, Kama in the Midbar, Kama Yamruhu Midbar. That's the bad thing. The Midbar, they were constantly complaining, as we said before in Parashat Midbar, all of these things that they're constantly misbehaving and not trusting Hashem. But the Nave'ani Midbar, on the other hand, I built the Mishkan in the Midbar. It's important to note that there's a different Midrash in Shemot Rabbah, which says, I was blackened with the egel, but beautiful with the Mishkan. That makes more sense if you think about it, because they sinned first with the egel, and as Rashi says, the Mishkan was actually only given after the egel, as a way to and we learned it in Alshech actually as well, that the Mishkan was the way to bring the Shekhinah in after the egel, so the Jewish people had the kapara and they were therefore worthy of the Mishkan. So that's a different version of the same idea, but it points out a slightly different way, but the same thing. And here comes what's mentioned in this week's parasha, interestingly, Shchora ani b'meraglim. I sinned with the sins of the spies. But where was the beauty in the sin of the spies? The Nave'ani, the Yehoshua, the Caleb. There was two individual Jews that didn't sin. And that's enough to say that the Jewish people are beautiful. So here again we're seeing a very strange thing. I'm blackened because the whole Jewish people, by Yelona Kol Ha'eda, all of the people cried and complained and didn't trust. But there were two individuals that did. And that's what makes the whole community beautiful. The same way we see the next case. In Shittim, just before they went into Israel, the nation went with the Midianite women And why am I beautiful? Because Pinchas got up and prayed and did what he did and killed the Zimri, and that's what's beautiful. So what we're seeing here is a certain theme that the fact that there's two Jews, Yeshua and Caleb, that didn't sin, is actually telling about the entire Jewish people. Because we say Va'amech kulam tzadikim. This is something that nowadays people like to throw around, and it's true. Va'amech kulam tzadikim. Every Jew is a tzaddik, but every Jew is a tzaddik is very true, but sometimes it's blackened. And as we're seeing in this pasuk, that sometimes we could be doing actions or fall into a certain way of thinking, or basically the Yetzer Hara takes over, or the animal soul takes over, whatever you want to call it, and we get blackened. But the fact that Yeshua and Caleb remain strong shows that every Jew is really that. Because Yeshua and Caleb aren't different to anyone. They're just another Jew. But they're the Jew that managed to be the Jew that they can be. So all of these examples of Moshe and Pinchas and the Jews that stay strong, and Hamidrash actually brings another few examples of the times of Achav when they were all sinning in the Baal, but there were a few Jews, Eliyahu and Navi stayed strong. And this is the powerful idea that the tzaddikim are not a different breed than us. They're the same as us. Hashem gave them the power to bring out the full Jew in them. Which is why they're able to help us, because they're telling us we're made out of the same stuff. So let me help you go through. I went through the same stuff as you, but I managed to get out of the maze, and I'm just giving you advice. And the truth is, that's why we actually ended up going into Eretz Israel even after the Meraglim and all of the Jews failed, because of Yeshua and Caleb. Because if you think about it, Yeshua and Caleb were, which tribes did they represent? Yeshua represented Ephraim, and Caleb Shevet Yehuda. So they're the two kingly tribes, Malchut Yosef and Malchut Yehuda. So basically what happened is that the laymen, the simple people, didn't manage to accomplish the mission. But the kings, the leaders did.
Not only that, the Alshech says that those two tribes were the ones that were most prone to say evil gossip. Why?
Oh, yeah?
Because Yehuda was the one that said to Yaakov, recognize this tunic, if you will. This is a sheker. And Yosef came with stories about his brothers. So both of them were disposed to giving out negative, and in spite of that, or because of the fact that Moshe blessed Yeshua and Caleb prayed, they were able to overcome their hereditary disposition.
Interesting. So they were kind of aware of their weakness, so they did something about it.
Yes.
So interesting. I guess maybe that's what leadership quality is, to be self-aware and prevent, be a step ahead, proactive. Yeah, so it's interesting. Yes, that's what we were saying. There's a remez in this week's parasha which says that after the Meraglim, when Hashem says we're not going in, you're all going to die, the two following chapters are the mitzvah of nesachim, wine libations, and the mitzvah of challah. Both of them start off saying, when you get to the land, I'm going to bring you. So Hashem is basically calming them down and saying, we're going to get there.
You're going to get there.
And we're going to get these two mitzvah. And these two mitzvah, interestingly enough, are connected to Yehuda and Yosef. Just in short, because Yehuda is the voda of David Melech, which is connected to the heart, and the heart is gladdened with wine. And in the portion of Yehuda, the Judean hills, they have lots of wine growing there. And Yosef specifically is considered the Chacham. Yaakov is giving them told the Torah, and the Chacham is connected to bread, which is the challah. So we're saying basically that these two shvatim actually are the ones that helped us get in.
Beautiful.
And they were the beauty in our situation of darkness. So this is the beautiful theme here, and the Midrash actually finishes off. After going through, I want to see the exact words here, because the Midrash goes through like a very long examples of all of the situations of beauty and within darkness, and he finishes off saying as follows. Finishes off as follows. Shchora ani ba'achav, he said, Achav was things, and then he finishes off as follows. He brings three more examples. Shchora ani b'kol yemot hashavua. I am darkened with sin during the week, but v'nava ani b'Shabbat. On Shabbat I'm beautiful. Shchora ani kol yemot hashana. I might be darkened with sin all year round. V'nava ani b'Yom Kippurim. Shchora ani b'olam hazeh. V'nava ani l'olam haba.
Beautiful.
So what the Midrash is saying is that never, even if it means you have to wait for Shabbat, or even wait for Yom Kippur, or even if Yom Kippur is not working, you can still wait for Olam Haba to see what a Jew really is.
Beautiful.
So that's what this passage is telling you. You can't look. It's more than what the eyes meets, and a Jew should never be judged, at least at its essence level, by what we see and by what's observable, because the essence of a Jew, even if you have to wait forever to see it, is there.
Yeah.
So that's the Midrash. There's a very famous Torah from Rabbi Nachman, which takes this idea even one step further, and this is a very Rabbi Nachman type discussion. And he says, a very famous Torah called Torah Zamra, Torah 282 Resh Beit, which talks about Nakuda Torah. And Rabbi Nachman said there's a very important avoda in life, which Rabbi Nachman says it's important to go with this idea and live life with this approach, is to always find the positive in another Jew. And he says, not only another Jew, even in ourselves. Well, he says, even afilu Rasha Gamur, you come across someone who's completely wicked. Rasha Gamur. There's a mitzvah, there's an obligation to be dan l'kaf zechut. What does it mean to be dan l'kaf zechut? How can you judge someone who's completely evil favorably? So we're saying we're not judging his evil favorably. His evil is evil. You can't justify evil. But what the point is, we have to find a part in him that he is good. Because every Jew has one aspect of his life that he does, that he's pure, that he's holy, that he's good. And if we focus, says Rabbi Nachman, on that part of him, then eventually that part will grow and take over the rest. Actually, he'll help him do teshuvah, because when we focus on the good is magnified. Now this is an interesting thing, because it seems to be counterintuitive and like la la landy when you see someone so negative and fully wicked, and you say, I'm going to focus on the tiny bit of good. But what's the idea behind it? Rabbi Natan explains in the first piece of the Halacha about waking up every morning. Rabbi Natan explains a very powerful idea, and he brings this passage to explain it. And he says that every Jew is inherently good. Why? Because a Jew is a soul, and a soul is part of Hashem. So goodness is really the only existence. But Hashem created darkness. So when we see someone that's full of sin and fully evil, is that the real truth? Or is that part of the darkness that Hashem created that is eventually going to dissipate and end in the time when Hashem reveals His goodness? So when we see the good in that person, we're not being in denial about his other things, we're just focusing on the only thing that's true about him. And when we focus in on that, we bring out the truth more and more, and we actually elevate the sparks of good that he has, and slowly that becomes the deciding factor. And he says, Shchorani v'naveh, says the Midrash, I sinned in the Egel, but I built the Mishkan. What was the Mishkan, says Rabbi Natan? The Mishkan was finding the good points in all the Jews that sinned in the Egel. Hashem said, these people are terrible. What did Moshe Rabbeinu come? Moshe Rabbeinu said, no, don't destroy them, they're good, they're still good. Moshe Rabbeinu did the avodah of finding the good parts in Jewish people, and that's what came out when they were told to bring the Mishkan. Every Jew brought their specific individual flavor of goodness in the Mishkan. The Mishkan was built out of Nakuda Tovas of all the Jews. One guy brought gold, one guy brought red, blue, silver, copper. These are 13 different colors and flavors of the Jewish goodness amongst the darkness. Because Hashem's light is pure white light. There's no color there. What makes the variation of color and flavor is because there's so much darkness. And every Jew is in so many different, you can be in so many different places spiritually and emotionally, that from this angle of darkness comes out a shade of light that has a specific hue to it, specific flavor, specific angle, specific color, and that's what makes it so beautiful. And that's what builds the Mishkan. The Mishkan is a combination of different colors, of different shades, which is only possible because we're stuck in the darkness. Because we sinned in the Egel, that's what made us be able to bring out so many different flavors of color. And that's why Rabbi Nachman says that bringing out the Nekuda Tova in everyone and in ourselves as well, very importantly, makes a song of Mashiach. It's called the 10 types of song, which the concept of Tikkun HaKalah is based on. We brought in the Zohar. There's 10 types of nigun, and these 10 types of nigun are called the Shir of Mashiach. And Mashiach comes by us bringing him this song. So what does that mean? It's because music really is. To be able to hit a note, it means you have to not hit any other note. And music is all about, really every type of art is like to cancel everything else out and just hit this note or this stroke. So it's a very specific, focused spot of hitting. So when we have so much darkness and there's like one note of good, that's what makes the ability for music. Because Hashem's, like I said before about Hashem's light being pure white, Hashem's sound is just the highest, loudest sound, or the highest, loudest silence. It's just everythingness. But music comes from different scales and different notes and different pitches. And because there's so much darkness, every Jew or every situation calls for another note coming out of the darkness, another note, another pitch. And that together is called the birurin of good, birur tov from Ra, is really what the purpose of the world is. So what we're saying is that darkness isn't there for no reason. Darkness isn't a mistake. Darkness is Hashem's plan in order to create different flavors and colors and music. And this is actually what we want. Obviously, we don't want sin. But if we look at the way Hashem created the world, with the breaking of the vessels, with the diminishment of the moon, and all the darkness, the diminishing of the moon is creating darkness. So Hashem created darkness in order for us to go into that place and offer Him Nekudas Tovas and points of goodness that we have, and to focus in on them in ourselves, focus in on them on other people, and that actually creates a song, as Rabbi Nachman says, a zamra, that the mitzvah is, that the Indian of looking at Nekudas Tova is to make a song for Hashem. And this is it's a whole perspective change on reality, because when we realize what the purpose of life is, we don't get so overwhelmed by difficulty and darkness and so the fact that so many Jews are so distant, because we see that as the recipe towards bringing the Geula and towards bringing the light that Hashem wants from us. So, so yes, B'ezrat Hashem, we should be merit to really go with this Torah from Rabbi Nachman, because I think it's a very powerful thing to be able to not get carried away by evil. And I think that's really it's something to go with in general, because there's so much evil forces in the world, and it seems like there's no hope for good. Good is like an old-fashioned thing that's lost and has no voice. And if we focus in on the small good deeds we see people do, and the small miracle stories that we see within all the pain and the suffering, that is what Hashem wants from us. And otherwise, because we're in Galut, we're in darkness, so all we can focus on what seems to be the main story and get into despair and sadness and depression, or we can realize that this is not the main story. It never is and never will be. And all Hashem wants from us is to focus on the small good things, and together eventually we'll see the beautiful music that it creates and the beautiful Beit Hamidrash that it builds.
I do want to ask you, because this is really, I have to give it over to Shabbat. And
there's a show in here on Shabbat as well?
no, just over lunch. See here. וזה נבון העניין, שאמר הקדוש ברוך הוא למשה רבנו, הנה מבקשים ישראל שלוח נביאים. Here they're going to ask you to, or they're asking you to send spies. וזה יש צרה בישראל. There's a problem. It's going to be כי במדבר הוא יפלו. They're going to fall. I'm telling you they're going to fall. וגם צרה לך, and also for you, שבשבילהם תישאר במדבר ולא תיכנס בארץ. Because of them, you're going to end up being buried outside. על כן, therefore, דע לך, note to yourself, כי אני חושש בעצם רק אליך. I'm only worried about you. כי על ישראל המה הסבו רעתם. They're already thinking, yeah, and therefore they'll have their own punishment. וזהו אמור שלח לך. That's why he said send for yourself. כלומר, that's the main, שאשר תשלח שיהיו צדיקים. When you, the people you send, let them be righteous. וזהו אמר אנשים. Okay? Yeah? Look. Where does it say? I think.
Yeah, the whole piece is saying that there was an option to go in there without doing the sin. There was a way to look, to check out the country without it being a spy way of doing it. And they could have chosen to do that.
Yeah, but it's still suggesting here, send them for your benefit.
Right. Again, like I said, the main point of it is that the lecha aspect is that if you send, you should be tzaddik. He's not focusing in here yet, I'm assuming. We might go later and say why it would be a good idea to send to begin with. But he's saying that the lecha is going on the tzaddikim aspect.
But how do you reconcile this point that bilti tish'ar b'midbar, without sending them, you're going to end up in
it's true. I don't know why he doesn't offer him the option of not sending them at all.
No, but even the statement, send the spies for your benefit, because without that, you're going to end up staying in the desert. That's what I don't get.
He's not saying that. He's saying, without what? Without sending the tzaddikim. In order the ability to don't send the desert, therefore I tell you that those you send should be tzaddikim. It's focusing on this word, on the lecha and nashim.
Yeah, but the problem
That's
is liberty. What's the liberty?
In order that you don't stay in the desert.
So what's the
What am I
scenario
supposed
that you're not going to send in the desert? What's the scenario?
If the spies don't sin. There's two options, either not to send them, or to send people that won't end up doing it the wrong way.
Right.
So, if for some reason he feels like we should send them, I don't know, that's what I'm saying. That aspect, he hasn't explained yet why sending is desirable in some way. But he is saying that when you do send, for whatever reason that you want to send, I'm giving you a tip to send to Deacon.
Because there's still free will, and they could still not say. But but it's very strange because he's prefaced that before that. They're saying that they're gonna fall. They're gonna fall.
Right, but that's the knowledge, not the free choice. So he said that tzaddikim are able to, override the knowledge. Potentially.
I have to tell you a very funny story in the Gemara that I remember reading. It's a story that says about always looking for good in people. If somebody comes to a rabbi and says, "Rabbi, there's this woman, she's disgusting, she's awful. There must be some good in her." She said, "No, there's really nothing good. Let me see it." So she comes to me. He sees her, he says, "What's your name?" She says, "Sarah." He says, "That's a beautiful name for you. It's a perfect name for you." And you never know. You have to see, at least your name matches.
You have to be really sincere, otherwise it's just going to break the heart.
That's right. Very good. Okay.